2022 meeting of the Town of Southampton Planning Board. Due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic and in accordance with Chapter 417 of the laws of 2021 and until January 15th, 2022, all of the board's meetings will be held remotely via video conference. So we ask the public to continually check the town's website for updates and new information. Please join in for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty
and justice for all.
And we have a roll call, Gloria, please.
Sure. Chair LaFaro,
Present.
Vice Chair Finity.
Present.
The secretary is here. Board Member Mutu.
Present.
Board Member Catalinato.
Present.
Board Member Long.
Present.
Board Member Zuccarelli, I believe, is absent.
Absent.
So we have a quorum. We have 6 members.
Thank you, Gloria. We have 6 public hearings this evening. We have applicants and members of the public standing by via Zoom webinar, which is being moderated by CTV. Charles Certain will be muting and holding the speakers in a virtual waiting room until it's their time to give testimony before the board. A reminder that applicants, agents, and members of the public speaking should state their name and address for the record. A further reminder that despite the Zoom environment, all comments should be directed to the board and not to other participants. The link to participate in this meeting via Zoom can be found on the town's website. This meeting is also being live streamed on the town's website on the town clerk's meeting portal. If you're having difficulty accessing the meeting, please visit the town clerk's meeting portal and click on the instructions link. Public comments can be made via Zoom, by email, or by uploading them to the town clerk's portal on the planning board's page. You'll see on that page a button that you can click to upload your comments. Please do not use the chat function to register your comments. Any comments made by the chat function will not be included in nor made part of the record. Instead, you may either speak at the hearing or submit your comments in writing after the hearing. Board members who must recuse themselves from any application will state so on the record and will be removed from the meeting until the end of the hearing. Additionally, in accordance with the legislation, these hearings will be recorded and transcribed and will be made available to the public. So with that, we'll go to number 1. Jackie, are you with us tonight?
Yes.
So this is Guy L. Rigler. Do we have sufficient notice, council?
We do, Madam Chair.
Good. So who is reading that into the record?
I am.
Okay, George, go ahead.
Please take notice that in accordance with Chapter 417 of the laws of 2021, a public hearing will be held by the Southampton Town Planning Board on Tuesday, January 13th, 2022 at 6 p.m. via video conferencing to consider the covenant/easement amendment application entitled Guy Riegler III, Division 2. The application is for an amendment of covenants and restrictions and common driveway easement agreement for lot number 1 associated with the subdivision located along the north side of the described meets and bound description on Castle Hill Court in the hamlet of North Sea, SCTM numbers 900-79-1-56.8, 56.9, 56.12, 56.13, and 57.10.
Okay.
Okay.
Karen, you are representing the applicant?
Yes, is Kieran Pate Murphy, the attorney for the applicants. I'm stepping in for Tim McCulley, who cannot attend tonight, but I think I have a handle on this, and I want to thank Jacqueline for helping me out. And also I'd like to say hello to George. It's been a while, so good to see you. So anyhow, I noticed that you put on your agenda packet some materials. So I'd like to go through that with you to kind of explain what's going on here. And so if we could, I don't know, can you put that on the screen?
Yeah, Kieran, you would like me to share the aerials and maps?
Yeah, the first aerial.
Sure.
And that shows the area we're talking about in red. It's at the end of Castle Hill Court. And these parcels in red we're going to be talking about. I'd like to go to the next one because it's bigger. Okay, so the first thing is that you have on the left, you have 2 large rectangle parcels. And if you go to the second one and go over to the left, there's a little house. That is lot 56-9, which is, that needs to have its 89 Castle Hill Court. That needs to have its covenant modified. So we're asking for that. So that's the first thing. Then the second thing is that the 2, if you go all the way to the bottom on the left, where the hand is, that's right, that parcel and the one above it have been combined. They were lots 56.13 and 56.12. They're 91 and 93 Castle Hill Court. So they've been combined. So that I think maybe needs a modification. Then you have in the middle there, you have a driveway going through to that is crossing this new created parcel, and it's going to 106 Castle Hill Road. There's a driveway easement that's kind of been already created, and I'm not sure if that's private or that's proposed to be an easement, but that's what's occurring there right now. And I did receive a call where that house is with the driveway from the attorney for the lot next to that, just explaining to them that, you know, any of these covenants or easements, the planning board is going to go through, but they're not going to infringe on that very large lot, which is 102 Castle Court, which is next to, you know, the one with the driveway that it goes all the way up to Castle Hill. So I'd like to go down to the next picture, which shows you kind of how this developed. The original subdivision went all the way to Great Hill Road. Then they created Castle Hill Court, which is kind of, I think it's straightened out now when I went to put the sign up, but that's what it was in the original subdivision. And you can see all the lot lines. And let's see, if you go down to the last one, that shows you kind of the existing conditions. You can see if you want to zoom in on the driveway crossing over. And even though that it's crossing over on that lot to 106, 106 has its own flag lot that goes down there. So these are the kind of the tweaks that are going on and the different amendments, and some of them are private.
If I could join in too.
Yes.
Mark Underberg, I'm the owner of the property, and I'm
Yes.
very, very familiar with what's going on here, and I've worked with Tim McCully very closely on it.
Great.
And I wanted to point out that for lot 5710, we're going to obviously keep the legal access, but the topography of the flag strip is extremely challenging. And I did some calculations myself, but we would probably have to clear the entire flag strip in order to create the proper grade to have access using the flag strip. That would result in 24,300 square feet of clearing. If we use the access road that I'm proposing, which has been there, I guess, for quite some time, it's actually paved with asphalt right now. And I guess it was used that way when it was all one property by Guy Riegler. That would result in owning 5,570 square feet of clearing, which is already there. It would be no additional clearing. We would basically use what's already there. So when Tim and I looked at it, we said this just makes so much more sense to do this. So that, And, you know, the fact that there were all these easements on the property and were so confusing, we figured, you know, because the current road that's there, that is asphalt, that is existing, meanders in and out of the existing easement. So what we did is we surveyed what was there. And then what we're going to do is we'll get rid of the other easements there, and we'll have a correct easement drop down on top of what's already there and cleared. Because in actuality, to comply with it, you'd have to wind up clearing more area, which just makes no sense. What's there is there. It works just fine. And there's no reason to redo it. So that was basically the genesis of this whole thing, to just try to clean up the mess of the 11 different easements that are here, to address the impossibility of dealing with the topography and reduce the clearing, and basically just clean up the mess that was there with, you know, you had Guy Riegler in there doing illegal subdivisions, getting numbers for lots that don't really exist, and just to put the whole thing back and just get it all cleaned up.
What happens? Are you abandoning any driveway or access road? Or not?
No, because for lot 5710.
Can you stay on the map, please, Jackie?
Oh, which one?
Easement, yep.
This one?
Yeah, can you make it larger?
I can zoom in. Give me 1 second.
And can you identify the lot that Mr. Underwood owns, please?
I think he owns all of them.
You own?
Yeah,
all-
yes, I own all 4 of them.
Okay,
Is this better?
Yeah, it's better. So the amendment that you're asking for, just to clarify, because it gets pretty confusing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Just tell us what you
Well,
want. to
maybe
amend.
maybe Jackie Fenlon can tell us what, I mean,
Yeah.
private easements are thrown across lots all the time without planning board intervention. Why is this application before our board?
Because it's 2 separate subdivisions. So
Well,
we've got a Guy Riegler separate subdivision here, which created the flag lots from Castle Hill Court. And then we've got Guy Riegler Division 3 right here, which has separate covenants. So this lot is not permitted at this point to utilize this driveway, although as the owner has provided that informally it was already cut in this fashion.
So that was a town, the first Guy Riegler subdivision imposed a covenant precluding that lot from using,
Yeah, I'm
what's
trying
the
to-
prohibition?
Let me see. I was trying to click through to show you guys the old one. So this was the original Guy Riegler subdivision. So see these flag lots? These flag lots actually end up becoming Castle Hill Court. And these properties here, we're talking about this property. So Castle Hill Court ends up being like somewhere around here. I don't remember exactly. But this is a separate complete subdivision. So this was supposed to be served by a common driveway, which was very long at the time. And then the property which he's trying to serve is. Was that a question?
No, just John came on.
Oh,
I come
okay.
on, but I was zooming in so I could see it better.
Okay. So the property that he's trying to access right here has topography issues from this flag strip here. This already has a house. This now fronts on the road. So they're proposing to come in on the separate map over here and come across. So I'll try to show you the other map. Let's see.
But
This
Mr.
is-
Underberg owns all of this property now, right?
Correct.
and they're
What did
held
the planning-
separate?
What did the planning board impose on that first subdivision what restriction are we trying to lift?
It was a common driveway, that it be utilized as a common driveway. So on the east side, it was supposed to utilize a separate common driveway that came over here. And then this subdivision came in later after Castle and created Castle Hill Court. This is the actual physical access right now, and it bisects, it crosses this property to the
So
separate
that-
subdivision.
So there's a covenant that requires, that mandates that his lot utilize a common driveway? Is that
Yeah,
what-
because it was a separate subdivision, yep.
Yeah, it was a
Right.
separate.
Jackie, is Castle Court a private road at this point?
It continues to be a private road, yes.
Okay, okay.
And are all these properties held single and separate?
Yes.
Yes, with the exception of the illegal subdivision that was remedied by a merger deed,
And that,
which we just received in the fall. That this, I'll show you that, Robin. Let me see.
Yep. Thank you.
Yeah, it's at the,
And is the goal here to develop that back property that has topography challenges to get to?
Yeah, so essentially what it is this was a separate map and this was a separate map.
Right.
This was the illegal subdivision that was created by deed without the benefit of a planning board approval. So that came to their attention and they merged it. So Tim McCulley and I, I said, really, before we can move forward, we need to correct this. So he filed this in the summer. We did just receive this legal document from the Suffolk County Clerk's office in the end of 2021. But this is a separate map. And then this is a common driveway that meanders. It doesn't follow the meets and bounds defined in the common driveway easement that created it, probably because of topo issues. But this kind of meanders. So what we'd like, what the applicant is requesting right now is, can he utilize this driveway on the west to provide access, which historically, existed, rather than clearing this full red flag strip on the east, which has topography issues and would lead to more disturbance. Since he owns all of these parcels right here, he's now merged these two. Can he correct the meets and bounds description to include how it meanders and the physical, existing conditions? But he would need to amend the covenant to allow this lot to come across, utilize this driveway and come across.
So this
Yeah,
is a covenant. Oh,
This
go
is
ahead.
this is
It
a
just-
covenant
It
amendment.
would be very helpful if these lots were numbered, 1, 2, 3, 4, so.
On the area.
Yeah,
Anyway.
just pen it in, so.
on
They
that-
have the tax lot. They have the tax lots on this map. So I think
right,
Mark was,
take a look at that one.
yeah, Mark was, and I can zoom in on this one like we were before.
Can I just ask a quick question?
Yeah.
George, did you used to be the town engineer?
I did, yes.
Okay, because I did a lot of road work with you a long time ago. I was
Okay.
I'm a road building contractor.
I don't remember, but I'll take it.
Yeah, we did it. Yep.
And
So
where-
it's, go
where-
ahead.
what lot is going to be developed with a new house?
They're all currently under development. This house would be accessing this via this driveway, the western driveway.
So there's no additional housing being built. It's just trying to clean up.
This is trying to clean up.
Yes, yeah,
Okay,
just cleaning it up.
So Jackie, the covenant we were trying to amend actually
We have to-
it mandates that they use their dog leg, or what are we
Yeah,
trying to
so,
amend?
yeah, the driveway was supposed to come in off of this flag.
Yeah,
So, yeah. So this
But
flag
also,
is supposed to
but-
utilize this.
when that covenant was drawn, Castle Hill wasn't improved. It was really just a bunch of, dirt flags.
Correct.
right.
Which was that original map, Dennis, that was like the skinnier one.
And the road, I just did a tremendous amount of work on the road with adding drainage and curbs and clearing and patching under the road review covenants.
But there's an actual prohibition to grant a private easement across that other lot. You're saying.
The common driveway that was granted to this lot was only over these flags.
But can
This
I
is
ask,
A private, in other words, under the existing covenant, a private party cannot grant him an easement to use the adjoining lot.
He-
I mean, the
he
legal
owns-
frontage is going to stay the same.
Legal
Yeah, they
frontage will
have-
stay the same.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
there's something that's preventing him from using that private party easement to get to his house. Something
Because
in our
this,
covenant,
yeah, this was only intended for these lots, Dennis, a separate subdivision.
right?
What Dennis keeps asking, and I join in his question, is how did we get involved? Where is the authority from the planning board?
We imposed both of the common driveways.
We,
It's not a-
those
it's
common
not a
driveways-
private easement. It's, both of them are planning board common driveway easement.
oh, okay, we were told they were, I thought they were.
Oh, they're all
They were
privately,
each created as part of each separate subdivision.
Okay, so they're not private easements between two parties, they are planning board easements in the design of subdivision.
So we mandated that house use their flag lot.
Yeah. exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Sorry.
can I just, Jackie, can I ask you, there are two subdivisions here, you're saying.
Correct.
Yes.
Are there still two subdivisions?
Yes,
Yeah.
the first one created flag lots that were very long, but then.
I don't go there. There are
Okay.
two subdivisions,
Correct.
and Mr. Underberg owns both.
He owns the subject parcels that are shown here. There are out parcels which are here, which Mark, have
Now,
you discussed?
does he own both subdivisions?
He owns within both subdivisions.
He owns within them,
Yes, he has these two lots and then
Yeah.
these. Yeah.
so he owns it all.
No,
He
No,
doesn't
there
own
are
it all.
several parcels that he does not, while he does own more than one parcel, there are other parcels within the subdivision.
Okay, that's helpful, that
Yep, good.
clarity. And so
These two.
did you say one subdivision was done away with, or did you not say that?
One subdivision was legal. This one, these two
Okay.
tax lots.
And Mr. Underberg, that and what he took away,
He remedied that by merging them back together.
he merged them.
Yes.
And I didn't create any of these issues. I bought them all and I've just been trying to fix them all. I didn't do the illegal subdivision or,
Or the access.
Yeah,
correct. It
When was the access granted? When did we do this?
They were in the 80s.
81, 87, I think it says.
Okay,
I think this one was 81. I think the other one was 88.
88, that's correct.
so to clarify, you're looking for us to amend one covenant or two covenants? Both covenants.
We're gonna have to clean up a lot of language in both.
'Cause
One
we're
is,
allowing, we're allowing lot 10, that's in one subdivision, lot, let's say subdivision A, to now share the common driveway with subdivision B.
Yeah,
correct.
And it
Mhm.
still keeps its street frontage.
and
So
it goes
that's-
right through the property, right? Goes right
Yeah.
Goes this way.
through. Right.
Will this, Jackie, will this also clean up the language that the flag lot where that one there will no longer, will clean up the requirement that it takes access off that flag lot so there can be
Correct.
no future clearing of that and creating an access back to Castle Hill.
Correct.
Yeah.
cul-de-sac, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so it'll just remain as legal frontage, and then it will clean up the language that this, does not participate, which lets this person essentially retain the existing driveway. This one will be we'll redo the meets and bounds based upon the existing conditions, but then allow the additional lot to come through this way.
So
Okay,
that other flag strip is still going to exist.
It will still
Yes.
exist as legal frontage for the lot, but it will not be utilized as access.
okay, let's forget about the legal language and put our planners hats on.
Yes.
The main thing here is we have to get engineering input to make sure that this appendage, that they have suitable access. And the town engineer might want, I don't know, if that's going to be through a road review application, or the town engineer might want drainage stabilization because they're traversing quite a bit of property to get to that back access. Exactly.
We did go through road review, but all of the work was done on Castle Hill Court proper with the addition
Right,
of
but your
drainage
road
and
review,
curbs.
your road review evaluated the access directly down through your dog leg. You're proposing a new access now. You didn't go through road review for your new access, correct?
I believe the town engineer has reviewed and is fine with the improvements shown in this area.
That
Okay.
bottom part?
Yeah, this part.
No, go down.
Yeah, this part.
Yeah, the transversing part. Has that been?
There's a plan for that? There's an actual plan common, there's an actual driveway plan for that last
I
portion
believe
of
there
the
was,
driveway?
Mark. I think we had discussed that you had gone over the common driveway improvements with Tom already.
Yes. He's aware of this application, certainly. I mean, and I don't think he had any concerns with it.
Has he drafted, did you draft specs? He's reviewed the specs of that driveway? Because we don't know what the topography gets very hilly back there.
Very hilly.
Oh, no, it's very flat there. That's probably why they originally cut it through there. It's very flat. I mean, that was, when I developed the property, I mean, I was stuck with the large lot there, which is the one that we did the deed merger on, because somebody had a house there originally, which we had to raise. And so, I was basically stuck with the clearing that was there, but all the other lots, I did full topos on them, and we laid everything out where it would be the least amount of topographical disturbance, because It's just better planning, and it's everybody would rather have a flat piece of property, more or less.
All right, as long as the town engineer will draft, a memo stating that he's reviewed the access and finds it suitable, that's fine. But-
Dennis, I've talked to Tom about this. It's been a while just because we were working on this more in the summer, but he was comfortable with it, but it needed planning board formal approval.
Okay. And curious, how are the utilities coming back there?
I think they would be also within the common driveway. Is that correct?
Yes, and curiously enough, they were already there when I purchased the property. There were transformers laid out already.
Okay.
Some of which, one of which, just to shows how this guy just did whatever he wants. One of them had been stolen in the 80s, and they knew the number when they came there, and they livened it up. I mean, he had even put one in to service that one illegal lot.
Believe me, that I know the history of the regular debacle up there.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean, Lester Holden told me he crashed his plane in Long Island Sound once and sailed around the world and sunk his ship. He was telling me some crazy stuff. So
there'll be a movie at some point about his adventures.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so I think it's finally clear to
Let
everybody.
it open up to a public comment.
Yes, of course. Does anyone wish to speak to this application? Charles, do you see anyone?
I see no hands.
Okay, Kathleen, are we 30 days or 10 days now, given the,
10 days is fine. It's the board's discretion.
okay.
I'll go for 10 days, close.
Motion by Dennis to close for 10-day written comment period. Second by Zuccarelli, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 7 in favor. Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Beth.
you. Bye.
Okay, number 2 is Broda Laurent and Chantel Broda. Is this a continuation, Kathleen, or
It is, Madam Chair. We have an affidavit of posting. It's a continuation.
okay,
You have Steve Kiley for the applicant, and there are several people who have registered through the town's website to speak.
okay.
Would you like those names, Madam Chair?
Yeah, let me have them and then we'll call them in that order.
Okay, Joe McGivern is counsel for one of the neighbors. She was on last time, if you recall.
Yeah,
Michael Schuster. C. Ruth, Routh. And Greg Raffo, Raffo.
okay, and we did get a letter for the record from Gil Martin at Farrell Fritz on this.
Correct.
Okay, so we don't need to read a notice. So Steve, would you state your name for the record, please?
Sure. For the applicant, Stephen Kiley, PO Box 567, Mattituck, New York, 11952. Good evening, Madam Chairwoman and rest of the board. For the record, I continue to rely on everything I stated at the last hearing and my previous submissions. As requested by the board, I've been in contact with the neighbors to explore the feasibility of alternative means of ingress and egress to the subject property. There appeared to be 3 alternatives. The first, the white right-of-way, 2, the Deergate common driveway, and 3, the subject pole.
Steve, excuse me for a sec. Can we get a map up so that we know what we're looking at?
Sure.
Sorry, Steve, go ahead.
No problem. Again, so there appeared to be 3 alternatives. The first is the white right-of-way, which you're looking at the map, it's to the north of the subject parcel. There's
Right.
like 3 lots. And then the Deergate common driveway, which is those bunch of poles together. And then the subject pole, which looks like it's delineated in red.
So 3 accesses, okay.
Correct.
The white,
The
the
white, the Deergate, and the pole.
Right, okay.
So Ms. McGivern at the last hearing advised us that there had been contemplated in the White subdivision to the north a potential right-of-way for our previously landlocked lot. Unbeknownst to me, that was indeed a condition of the White subdivision approval. However, semantics are important, and the terms "at the option" and "reversionary" or "upon a condition being met" have meaning. And those are the words that are used in the subject's CNR. And here that means this right of way is not as of right and would require the authorization of the White lot owners via a purchase. I spoke to representatives of each of the lot owners. Their response was a resounding and unanimous no. Therefore, that alternative is dead in the water. The second alternative is to use the Deergate subdivision common driveway to the east via permission from the lot owners, coupled with an easement from the owners of lot number 1 or lot number 2 of the Deergate 3 subdivision, Mr. Routh and Mr. Pappas respectively.
Where are those lots?
That's the multiple lines, the multiple white
No, I
lines.
see that, but are those
Okay,
two
so we
lots
would
and
need
a
an
vacant
easement
lot?
over Mr. Pappas's property, which is there, yeah, where the hand is. And then Mr. Ralph. So it would be either one of those properties would have to grant us an easement if we were able to use the common driveway.
Okay,
So while it was conveyed by Ms. McGivern that we can count on her 2 clients allowing the use of the common driveway, she only represents 2 of the 6 lot owners. However, we need not go any further because I spoke to both Mr. Ralph and Mr. Pappas, and it was made clear through affirmation or silence that an easement is not an option. Thus, this option or alternative is equally a non-starter. So we're back to the last and only alternative, which is our pole. And regardless of the gas lighting by council, we have a clean deed to the pole with no restrictions, which by the deed language and operation of law has merged with the flag. I respectfully contend that while we had no problem exploring other alternatives to attempt to address our neighbors' concerns, we have legal access to our lot, and this hearing should move forward. It should be noted, however, that the pole, when sold to my client's predecessors in interest from the town, it was advertised in the subject resolutions as a, quote, right-of-way, not a greenbelt. Further, the pole on the Deergate 2 map was earmarked greenbelt to be dedicated. The deed from the developer to the town dedicating that area was never dedicated as a greenbelt. The deed was silent, except that it granted an access easement to Parcel 2. So that's where I stand with this. I think we should move forward with the pole as being the access.
How wide is it? How wide is that pole?
25 feet.
And you're creating 1 lot back there, right?
2.
Well, we're doing a subdivision, 2 lots.
2, well, yeah, okay, 2 lots. So you need the ZBA relief for that.
Well, no, I was gonna, if we do the cluster, I believe the planning board, where's
Oh, you're proposing a cluster? Okay.
Yes, sir. Yep.
Okay.
so the 2 lots off the Deerfield are where? Right in front?
Deergate.
Yeah, Deergate.
So the alternative, they were exploring, was utilizing the existing common driveway and coming through either off of this flag lot to the south or over this, I think, Mr. Roth's property. This was left open for a possible option by the planning board, but it remains at the option of these property owners. This flag was wider and, has a 20-foot right of way, but it is at the language that has in the covenant says it's at the option of these property owners. So this is the existing proposal from the applicant, which was deeded from the town to a previous property owner in 2001 or 2.
But is that going over some other owned properties or not?
Oh, he's got clear title.
This is owned by the applicant. the
but
red.
What about the
But-
green belt? Part of the conversation. The applicant is saying that it was never deeded to the green belt?
Give me
No.
one moment to pull up the historic. subdivision.
No, so pursuant to, I believe it was Deergate 2, the developer deeded over the pole to the town. It seems to be that at some point they wanted it to be a green belt, but they never effectuated it. So it was never formally dedicated as a green belt. It was only deeded as a right of way. And that's how it was advertised, and that's how it's in the deed. It's silent as to any restriction. And then also further to substantiate this point, the quid pro quo for this pole was an easement on the rear of our property. And that has no reference to the pole being, having any encumbrances. So there's nothing in our CNR that, created the easement in the rear of the property speaking to that pole having any encumbrances. So it's just, again, it was just titled Greenbelt to be dedicated, and it never was.
Okay, so can you indicate it on this?
So the Deergate subdivision created these two parcels and created this 25-foot, which says to be dedicated to the town of Southampton, which is a 25-foot wide green belt on that map.
And the property we're talking about now is this one there. And the applicant said something about there was an easement on the, I'm going to use the term back end. What's back there?
This was a white subdivision.
I could point, but that's not going to help. You're not going to be able to.
Do you mean the
To the left,
to the south?
whichever, to the left on the screen.
Mhm.
I think she's referring to the conservation easement, Jackie. Can
Yeah,
you
on the
show-
rear of my
Can you
property.
show Member Burke the aerial?
And
Yes.
what is that conservation easement? Is there a reason why that greenbelt access was suggested? Is where I'm going.
The white
Not sure.
subdivision?
Yeah, because the Greenbelt, well, what's termed the Greenbelt was created by the Deergate subdivision in '89. My easement on the rear of my property was created in 2002. And it was created in 2002 when my client's predecessor in interest purchased the pole in exchange for that easement.
And what does that, I'm just trying to ascertain what that easement is it open
It's
to-
correct. It's open space, it's private open space. It's not open to the public, but we can't do anything in it. So it's just scenic. But it adjoins property that the town owns. So that's why the town was interested in it, because it enlarges an area that they already own, which adjoins the rear of the property.
Yeah,
What-
and so
can you
that,
just-
that greenbelt access would be a way for the community to get access to that landlocked greenbelt.
No, because again, the conservation easement that's on the back of my property doesn't allow the public on that piece. So they would have to, the pole would end at the flag, and then they would have to trespass over our property and trespass through the easement to get to town property. So it was never intended to be a trail.
Can you indicate where the town property is that it was going to link
The
to?
TOS, it's right there.
Yeah.
You've got the green property here, Jackie. This is like an
Oh.
upside down L. And then the conservation easement is the lighter blue, which is also an upside down L shape.
I got it. So the town property for use is well, I can't see something where it says
TOS,
watermelon there.
Southampton.
Trying to zoom in. Yeah, so this is town owned.
And then the TOS is the other parcel.
Yeah, this is owned
Right,
and that.
and then, and that, so Glorian's, I understand Glorian's question now, that it was really created for access to the town-owned open space, the open parcels.
No,
No, it was not.
What was it created?
I have no idea. It was maybe for a buffer between the two lots but again, the pole terminates and then it's private property. So you would have to trespass over private property to get to the other town-owned land. The pole didn't go through the property, through the flag to get to the,
It dead ends is what you're saying.
yes, yeah.
Yeah, I believe the planning board's overall goal was to provide a trail connection, an open space connection down to this trail easement. I've spoken with Dave Wilcox and the Trails Advisory Board who have a recollection of this. So even though it didn't actually effectuate getting there because this was still an out parcel, the main objective was to get a trail easement and open space connection to get to these trails. Although we still have a missing link right here as well.
But you're saying that easement, that connector goes along the white property, right?
No, from Dave's recollection, the greenbelt was intended to be the trail that sought access. Obviously we can't always get every piece of the puzzle at the same time. So his recollection was this was meant for a trail to get to the properties to the west. There's an existing trail easement here, open space here, and then down here. So we did have a missing link here and there, but as a planning board, we always strive to get those connections where we can.
In other words, they should assemble these maps and like the prior Riegler map and call it bad planning from the 1980s. And forget about the continuing education. The planning new board members should be looking at these maps. Here's an instance where they set up a green belt, quote, air quotes, and there's a landlocked parcel. Should we address this now? Oh no one's going to build on that or do anything with that. We'll just set it up as a green belt access. I'm telling you, there are a number of these maps, and they're all in that same general area, the northern woods of Watermill and Bridgehampton.
Mhm.
And you can see, you could just tell by the layout what a terrible job the planning board back then was doing, the town was doing.
Yeah.
And it's up to our board now to clean up these messes, just like we had in the prior Riegler map.
so
Yes.
in essence, what they made was a landlocked parcel.
The parcel was landlocked, it had no frontage.
So
And it's
how do
like-
they divide everything else and leave, we're not supposed to leave landlocked parcels.
I know, well, this parcel wasn't, the applicant's property was not part of that subdivision, but it's incumbent upon our board to look at landlocked parcels and provide access in the future. And instead of doing that, the board just said, oh, well, nothing's gonna happen back there. Maybe they'll throw in the towel and sell it to the town. It's just.
And Dennis, to that point, the White subdivision did think about giving access to this landlocked parcel, but left it at the option.
Yeah, at the option. I wonder if the neighbors who built out I'm sure they'll allow that access to be used for. Why not put that provision in there? That seems reasonable.
Maybe it could be a 4-lane highway.
Make a pamphlet of bad planning from the 1980s. This is it.
Would I be able to just, I'm sorry, can I just chime in on the greenbelt issue and the trail? No problem. So I just want to reiterate, pursuant to Deergate 2 subdivision approval, a 25-foot greenbelt was deeded to the town. Again, greenbelt in air quotes. But it should be noted that greenbelt was subject to an access easement for ingress and egress by Lot 2. Again, the quote-unquote greenbelt in the deed was never created. There is no such thing as a greenbelt. It was silent. It just was deeded plain vanilla property to the town with no restriction. So the greenbelt was never created. And it also had an easement over it for ingress and egress. So I don't think you would want a trail where you could have an active driveway going through it for ingress and egress. So the deed was filed.
I totally agree.
Yeah, so the deed was filed in 1989, and in 89, a greenbelt was akin to a scenic easement, not a trail. If you look at the codes back, it was never intended to be a trail. From my perspective, I know Mr. Wilcox has been there forever, and I worked with him, and I greatly respect him, but I disagree with him. In 1992, again, this is in 89, greenbelt was a scenic easement. In 92, the term greenbelt appeared in the newly enacted Trails chapter as an area that links other open spaces. Here, the Greenbelt never linked publicly open spaces. As I said, the subject pole was formally deeded to the applicant's predecessor interest in 2002. This was in exchange for a conservation easement that adjoins the town-owned property to the west. However, the terms of the easement forbade the public use of the easement. So again, they further substantiated that this was never going to be a trail, because even the easement that enlarged, in essence, the town-owned property, the public was not allowed to go through that. Thus, the easement was just visually expanded, the town-owned open space, but not functional. The rumor that the pole was intended to be a trail fails on 2 points. Nowhere in the deed, nor the conservation easement does it state that the pole shall be used for trail use. And for argument's sake, again, it would be nonsensical because it would be a trail to nowhere. So again, I just wholeheartedly disagree with that.
You've clear title. There's no encumbrances on that strip. As you've stated.
There's zero. And
Good.
it actually says,
Then you got it.
Yeah, and it says further in the deed that the predecessor and interest, the owner of the town, said there was no encumbrances on it. And it says in the deed that the poles shall be merged with the flag.
Poles shall be merged with the flag.
And then also, it's my understanding that when you have a substandard lot that adjoins a standard lot and it's in common ownership by operation of law, it's merged.
Yes,
Correct.
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 Yeah, so I just want, there's a little parenthetical in the deed, again, from my client's predecessor interest in the town. It says, it's the intent of this deed that the parcel transferred herein, i.e. the approximately 25-foot wide strip of land, shall be merged with the adjoining land of Lawrence and Mary Hanlon, which is this subject lot. And then again, and the party of the first part, the town, covenants that the party of the first part has not done or suffered anything whereby said premises have been encumbered in any way whatsoever.
Okay. All right, well, we have some people who want to speak here, Steve, so
Sure.
let's move on to them and just see. Joan McGovern?
Yep.
McGivern, sorry.
Hi, good evening, members of the board. I'm Joan McGivern at Toomey Latham, representing two of the immediate neighbors at 214 Little Noyak Path and 210 Little Noyak Path, respectively, Gregory and Anita Raffo and Deborah Morell and Michael Schuster. Needless to say, before I get into some details, we disagree on several significant points that Mr. Kiley made, and we have consulted with him and we're not able to reach agreement. I think at this point, Jacqueline, I sent you a PowerPoint that I wanted to share. Can you put it up or do you want me to put it up?
It's up to you. The letter that you provided?
No, it's a PowerPoint presentation.
I did not receive a PowerPoint today.
All right, can I share my screen?
I think Charles
may.
can grant you permission.
You may. Okay. So so there's a lot to look at here, but this pink line here is the white subdivision that I'm going to speak more about. The green line is the green belt. The sort of sun markers are Deergate properties, Deergate 1 and Deergate 2 and 3, which ultimately have a shared driveway, which is the orange line. And this yellow line signifies what would happen if the green belt was extended, because it would wrap around our client's property. This is the Raffos property and this is the Schuster property, if you were to permit it to be subdivided. But I want to back up a little bit. In our initial letter, when we discussed the White subdivision and the covenants and restrictions, we did not have at that time the April 6, 2000 town board resolution that contained specific covenant language that was supposed to be in the deeds to the White subdivision, and that's lots 1, 2, and 3. And we submit that these conditions, which I set forth in our letter of January 4th, and I'm going to read particular parts of them, override the deeds, because by 2000, the planning board started to actually plan for right-of-ways and right-of-ways to the landlocked property. Condition 5 provided that the subdivision map, that's the White subdivision, would indicate the right-of-way, width, ownership, and condition of improvement of Little Noyak Path. Condition 6 went on to say, provided for, and this is important, provided for a common driveway for the 2 westerly lots, which is lot 1 and 2, constructed to a point at least 500 feet from the frontage of Little Noyak Path. And then it went on to provide that any conveyance or transfer of the area labeled 20-foot wide potential future access to landlocked property. Now, on the White subdivision map that was included in the letter which we sent, this, I'm trying to find my mouse. There was marked on that map this 20-foot section, and it did not say that it was at the owner's discretion as to whether or not it could be accessed. What condition 6 said, which was supposed to be in the deeds, said, shall be subject to further review and approval from the planning board, and the common driveway required for the 2 westerly lots in the subject property shall be utilized by the landlocked property. So clearly the planning board in 2000 planned to use the White subdivision to access this lot. Why was a conveyance without triggering the planning board review? I can't say now, lost in history. But we can say that lot 3 has now been transferred a total of 5 times, and we've yet to have a triggering event. The one thing that Mr. Kiley also left out is that the covenants and restrictions that do appear in the deed states that the failure of the town of Southampton to enforce these covenants shall not be deemed to affect the validity of the covenant. So the way I interpret that is that the town board resolution, even though maybe it hasn't been enforced as it was anticipated to, it should be enforced now. And that's why we believe the White subdivision should be used. I also have a few comments on the so-called green belt, which I understand we'll call it.
Excuse me, Joan, for just a second. Someone's rustling papers right next to a microphone, and it's blotting out the audio.
Oh, sorry. The green belt, or the town of Southampton's property, it was exchanged for the covenant easement under a town board resolution that wasn't noticed to the adjoining landowners. It wasn't noticed to the planning department, and it wasn't noticed to the planning board. It was a land swap. And it was a land swap of what effectively is open space that was owned by the town of Southampton. In order to alienate open space, there are certain provisions that need to occur, including the adoption of a local law by a majority of the board, plus in order to authorize the alienation of the land, plus it's subject to a mandatory referendum by the electors of the town of Southampton. It's respectfully submitted that this resolution, this swap, which is probably a backroom deal of some kind, which I don't have evidence for directly, but it's so extraordinarily different in terms of not following a normal process that you suspect something went down. And thirdly, we note that this green belt, as we're calling it, is still taxed as parkland. So that again gives rise to the inference that for 2 decades, somebody still thinks it's parkland. Certainly the tax assessors have been taxing it at the rate of $43.60. That's as of this year. So for all those reasons, we believe this swap of the green belt for the conservation easement really didn't gain the town of Southampton anything that wasn't already provided in the White subdivision. So we look very skeptically on the green belt being used as a right of way, besides the fact that it impacts, if I can go back to my clients, the Raffo's property and the Schuster's property, it creates basically a two-way street where there's already a common driveway, and there's another common driveway that takes the form of the White subdivision. I want to turn it over to the clients who are going to describe to you on a sort of more on the ground what this would mean to them.
Can I just interject first, Madam Chairwoman, just to respond to 2 points that she raised? I'll be real quick. First, since, again, I laid it out pretty clearly that this was never parkland, so the alienation of parkland procedure is not triggered. So that's that. And then I have in front of me the notice of public hearing that was put in the Southampton Press regarding this transaction. So when she says there was no notice, that's totally inaccurate. There was a resolution setting a public hearing, and there was legal notice pursuant to that. And I have a copy of that, and I can submit it to the board if they need it.
Just for the record, we already submitted that. And my point was that the landowners, the planning department were not noticed, and the adjoining landowners.
Well, the adjoining landowners were noticed because this was put in the Southampton Press, and they have de facto notice when it's put in the press, and the planning department and the planning board are part of the town. So I would assume that they got notice of this. And again, if it's just plain vanilla property being swapped for an easement, there's no further burden.
Well, Mr. Kiley, you've left out that resolution was specifically predicated on the fact that there was a covenant not to further subdivide the property, which you're also seeking to do.
No. Well,
Please address your comments to the board and not having a conversation with each other. Thank you.
Okay, Madam Chairwoman, if I could just miss my last point, that of course I agree with her. The resolution setting the public hearing did have that potential condition of no further subdivision. However, the resolution that approved this transaction and authorized the supervisor to sign the documents on behalf of the town did not have that condition in the resolution. So in my mind, the public hearing occurred, and it was elected by the board at the time not to include that condition because it's not in the deed, and it's not in the conservation easement, and it's nowhere to be found. So that's that.
Okay. So let's hear from, where are we going now to?
Mr. Schuster and Mr. Raffo.
Mr. Schuster?
I'll start.
All right, Mr. Raffo.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Chairwoman and the board. And I thought Joan did a very good job describing our case.
Please identify yourself with your address.
Sorry, I'm Craig Raffo, and I'm at 214 Little Noyak Path, the first one in the Deergate subdivision.
Right.
So I thought it would be helpful to show you a little video of this proposal, and I'll keep this as brief as I can because I'm conscious of your time. But if you can allow me to share my screen, please.
You may.
Thank you. Now, what you see here is just the Google map with the proposal laid over it. Here's the Broda property. And again, the white axis in blue, the green belt in red, and the common drive in yellow. And I'll note that the blue and the yellow are existing, and the green belt would require a lot of construction. And I'll state plainly, granting access to the green belt would require raising of hundreds of trees in an aquifer protected zone, and then it would crisscross right over my driveway. And you'd have to end up wedging this greenway between a very narrow space of land between the white road that exists and my neighbor Schuster and Morel, right between their land. And then it wraps around the back. So I'll play this video quickly. I'll skip around just so I don't sop up too much of your time, but I just want you to appreciate what in fact they're proposing. Okay, so we'll start, and it's a little interactive. So you start at the Deergate subdivision, which is our common drive, and just north of that, about 40 feet up, is the green belt. And as you walk down, and I'll speed it up, you see my driveway, the white stone. And so the green belt is meant to intersect with my driveway. To the right, it goes up to my house, and there's my access to the common drive. So it's just going to go right over it. Now, there's more of this. You go along my property, up and around. This is on the first side of the Schuster's property, and I'll skip, but there's the common drive. As we go around, you'll start to notice the green belt would then encounter the white subdivision right here. And you'll see how close it is to the Schuster's house and the white access. And at some point, it becomes so tight, there's maybe 30 feet of actual space through forest that you would wedge a third road, essentially. So I'll just show you one more thing, and it's when this wraps around, that's the third house in the white subdivision, very close to Schuster's property. And then finally, it wraps around to hit the third side of their house. It's incredibly
Intrusive.
invasive. And well, wait 1 second while we turn the camera just to see exactly where it is. So I just wanted to have that on the record so you appreciate. I can stop sharing my screen, but I think with just the common sense of it, and then the arguments that Joan laid out, that this was handled, it was meant to be handled by a planning board in 2000, access to the white subdivision. And that's it from me. So I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Madam Chairwoman, can I just ask?
I'll let Michael Schuster speak, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, and thank you all. Thank you for your time. My name is Michael Schuster. My wife, Deb Morel, and I own the property and are living in the property at 210 Little Noyak Path. So I wanted to respond. Joan and Greg made most of our points. And, as Joan set forth very clearly, the matter is in doubt. Mr. Kiley, and I'm sorry, but he says that, contrary to the gaslighting by counsel, there is no need for sarcasm. There is no need for that kind of language. We engaged counsel who quite straightforwardly set forth the facts of the matter. And all I can say is, I don't know, and it is not clear on the record, how we went from a single parcel, a single lot, that was parceled out, that was supposed to use an existing access road, to now a proposed subdivided parcel that will not use the existing access road, but instead, and of which there are two, but instead now we'll have to bulldoze down trees for a long way, Greg showed you, running parallel to the existing drive, private drive, the Deergate 2, and then parallel to our driveway, between our driveway and the white subdivision driveway. How exactly did this happen? How is that any kind of conceivable, good or straightforward planning? Something is amiss. And Mr. Kiley says that it's not a green belt. It's not a green belt. It was never meant to be a trail. Let's get real. It's green. It's a belt. There are trees there, and they were never intended that the way that property would be developed would be to bulldoze a whole new swath of trees parallel to the private drive and between the white subdivision drive and my driveway. No one ever intended that. Something has gone wrong here. There are two existing drives that give perfectly good access to that property and that don't necessitate the cutting down of a single tree. So that is what should happen here. And I beg you, that's why we showed you the video. That's why in our first letter, Joan sent the photograph. I know you deal with a lot of matters. I know you can't go and visit every property, but that's why we wanted to make it as real for you as possible. I don't even know how they can put a driveway between the white subdivision driveway for the Porco property and my driveway in a way that is not going to be hazardous to my property, let alone the violence it will do to the standing trees and to the overall aesthetics to this area. And we understand this is a protected aquifer area. So I urge you to take a good, hard look at what has gone on here, because the end result here is not the one intended. It makes no sense. It's not remotely fair to us, and it will do injury to existing trees and the overall aesthetics of this area. Please give this careful consideration. Thank you for your time. Thank you for hearing us out.
Thank you. Was there a Mr. or Ms. Ruth? Stephen, let me get these public people to speak here.
No, I know. I just wanted to respond to their.
Well, let me hang on for just a second.
All right.
Is there another speaker here? I was told.
It's Lisa.
Yes,
Lisa
that's me.
Perillo. Okay.
That's me.
Okay. Go ahead, Lisa.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lisa Perillo. I'm with the law firm of Messina, Perillo and Hill in Sayville, New York. I represent Kimberly Goff Hughes, who's the owner of 278 Little Noyak Path. That's lot 2 of the White subdivision. I just want to note for the record that we join in Mr. Kiley's representation to the board earlier that the use of what's being called the white access is at the option of those 3 white lots, and that we have not conceded or given permission to any other lots for use of that private property. I also want to note for the record that it appears that the applicant here already has deeded accessway to its property. It doesn't need to impose on our private property to reach it, and there's no lawful basis to require that. And that's all I want to say very briefly. Thank you.
Thank you.
CJ Roth.
Yes, Mr. Ruth?
Roth.
Routh.
Sorry.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Carlos Routh, 208 Little Noyak Path. I'll bring people back to Jackie Fallon. Can you put up the subdivision map, if you'd be so kind, for the applicant? I'm going to bring people back to October, where I tried to explain, and we were missing the ability to show anything on maps and so forth, but I'm going to try to direct my comments on the subdivision of the property itself. The applicant and the owner of the property have every right to attempt to subdivide. I think there was a little bit of, let me go back one step. I have a little history here. I was there for the subdivision process of Deergate 2 and 3. I built the first 3 houses on the road. I'm fairly familiar with the property, what's gone on. I've been there quite a while and lived there full time. What we're looking at here in this subdivision process, if you will, I think it started off badly. I understand the planning board is most interested in either open space or cluster or both, depending on how you want to balance one and the other. But I want to go from showing you these 2 little lots that are carved out from some open space, some extra property that's been deeded to the town, all well and good. If you, Jackie, can you go from there to the Google Earth map that was sent to you by Greg Raffo? That's an aerial map.
Oh, I can go to the aerial, but I don't have access to his. He would have to share it again.
Well, then how about the one that I sent you?
Well, I can share it.
Good. Why don't you do that, Greg?
Okay.
While he's doing that, I'll say that we
There
did
you
have
are.
some,
Do you see it?
Oh,
Yes.
yes. Good.
we did have some conversations with the applicant and his attorney. And one of the things that we tried to point out, all right, that house to the right of the arrow happens to be where, I believe it's where I live.
Yes.
Yes. And you have 3 houses to the south and some open space to the left of my house and Mr. Schuster's house. That is the lot in question. It's a nice piece of property. It gains in elevation as it heads west. We pointed out to the applicant and his attorney that we weren't quite sure why they were so interested in clustering so close to other houses. If you look at this entire area for a mile square, the average room between houses ranges somewhere between 600 and 1,000 feet. I understand cluster. I know what it means. But does it make sense in this area? Do you see anything else clustered there other than somebody's garage to their house? I'm trying to make a point here about the subdivision itself. I think I can't say poorly planned because it was done by the planning department, but I don't think the original surveyors were able to help move it along or do anything in a proper process. The original surveyors have with all due respect to Lester Holden and Bob Smith, have no notion of this area. This area is primarily 2 and 5 acre lots. And therefore, we're not used to pushing houses close together, much less access, but that's not my point. My point is I'd like the applicant to rethink and work with the planning board and potentially his new surveyors that I introduced to him and take another look at his mini lots next to 5 acre lots. I don't think it's appropriate. It may be apropos for the planning department, but I don't think it makes any sense for the area. People here have more property around them. They don't need extra open space. All right. There's already been property deeded to the town with no access. That's not doing anyone any good. But let's move these lots around. If you want to sell these lots, which I know the applicant wants to do, I think he needs to create better space. And I think he needs to work with perhaps a new surveyor, come back to the planning board and say, you know, let's look like the rest of the neighborhood. Let's not stack houses on top of each other here. So that's basically what I wanted to go in for you, unless anybody has any questions.
Carlos, I just want to say, and good to see you again. We haven't locked ourselves into this cluster map. I wholeheartedly agree with you. I know this area probably as well as you do, and I was surprised to see a cluster, and I think it was just done for the purpose of securing the so they wouldn't have to go to the ZBA. But this area warrants larger, you know, home sites, and so that determination is not coming from this board. But that's still, even if you went with larger lots, there would still be the access issue that hadn't been resolved. Unless that's on the table, is that a negotiating thing between the private parties? I don't know.
I can answer in part that the private parties have spoken, and I think you've seen the results here tonight, that nothing's gotten accomplished.
Is the clustering issue the big impediment for parties to come together, or?
No, I would totally wholeheartedly disagree.
I'm trying to answer his question.
We have no issue with redesigning the layout. We have no issue with redesigning the layout. And I made that clear to him in the conversation. So I'm a little taken aback that he's now saying that we weren't receptive to it, because we were completely receptive.
Let's put that aside. First of all, there's no determination as far as clustering and layout of these lots. This is the first we're seeing of it. So
can I just, it's my understanding that we have to cluster pursuant to section 247(8)(c)(2), because we're located in a CR80 zoning district.
Incorrect.
Jackie, correct me if I'm wrong.
I'll correct you right now. It's at the discretion of this board. You don't need Jackie to correct you. I'll correct you. The determination of clustering is made by this board. There's no mandatory clustering in this area, none. And we can achieve open space goals through other means, whether it be easements or buffers and.
And I'm totally on board. We're not married to clustering. As far as the design, the layout, we're open, and even access, we're open. If there was another alternative, we'd be open. So I just want to make it clear.
So given that reality, is there an opportunity for parties to come to once again sit down and determine an agreeable access, whether it be from the White or from Deergate, or maybe one of each?
Yeah, absolutely, but what I'm been told in no uncertain terms that the White access is a non-starter. That there's no way we're going to be able to convince them to allow us to have access over there. I did speak to Mr. Routh, and I said, if you would grant us a little easement over your property, it could work. He hasn't responded to that overture. As far as Mr. Pappas, we had 3 or 4 conversations with him. Very nice man, but he says, no way. He says, I support your application, do what you got to do, but I'm not going to give you an easement over your property. So it brings us back to square one, which is our pole and our access, which is as of right. There's nothing encumbering our right to open that up, because we wouldn't even be here if we weren't going for a subdivision and I was just putting in a building permit application to put a house there. That pole would have been bulldozed already. So I'm just putting that out there. And then also, I'm just a little concerned that the neighbors feel that they can just trespass onto my client's property and take a video of their property. So I'm a little concerned about that.
Well, okay, we don't know.
To the board, it was Greenbelt for a long time. Sorry.
I just want to ask Ms. McGivern, that you stated that there were 2 accesses to this parcel, the White and
if there was agreement, the Deergate common driveway would allow another point of access, but the 6 common driveway owners would have to agree. If I can share my map again, you'll see, I'm going to share the screen again.
Go ahead.
You'll see the the common driveway for the Deergate properties, it actually touches the subject property. The problem, as I understand it, is these two property owners here have built out their properties in such a way that you can't get access. Mike or Greg might be able to explain that better. And then I just want to emphasize again that this little strip here, the 20-foot strip of the white subdivision, if you go back to the 2000 board resolution, which is controlling what should have gone in the covenants and restrictions, you'll find that the white subdivision is the way to go. It just isn't as Mr. Kiley's reading it.
So.
It's not only my,
Can I just ask a question?
sure, sorry.
So the Deergate properties, the two on the south there that you pointed out,
Yeah,
that their access into their subject property doesn't work anymore. So doesn't that eliminate this one access completely if that situation exists?
if the parties can't agree, yes.
Okay, then going now to the white access, is that possible?
Well, we believe it is if the board is willing to stand by its April 6, 2000 resolution.
Excuse me, what happened to the necessity for permission? I just want to understand that. By the other property owners on the white.
That's their reading of the covenants and restrictions that were enacted pursuant to the April 6, 2000 resolution. However, to the extent that the resolution doesn't, well, let me say it differently. To the extent the deeds don't follow the covenants and restrictions that the planning board dictated, the deeds are overridden by the resolution.
So there's a discrepancy between the deed and
And
what the planning board resolution of 2000.
precisely.
And the permission sits where? In the resolution, in the covenant, or in the deed? Where is that?
Well, the resolution clearly reserved approval rights for the planning board and set forth that that the right of way was the common driveway required for the two westerly lots in the subject property it uses the word shall be utilized by the landlocked parcel. There's no misreading the dictates of shall.
Okay, where is Mr. Kiley getting the permission being required by the?
Because the owners of the white subdivision are now reading their deeds in a restrictive fashion, which we disagree with.
So you have deeds that say they need permission, and you have a resolution that was never
Well,
written.
we don't read the deeds that way. The deeds refer to a reversionary interest, which means it reverts upon the transfer of the property, and it was supposed to revert to a right of way.
Can I just chime in on there? I'll read it verbatim to you. I have the white CNR in front of me. It says, at the option of the declarants, their heirs, successors, and assigns, the title to the land lying within the reverter area, again, at the option of, shall be divested from any third party then having title, and then shall blah, 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 blah. It says further here that that's a diversion, reversion of title, said reverter area shall only occur in the event that said reversionary interest has been purchased from the declarants. So not only do they have to agree, I have to purchase it. And I reached out to each and every one of them and said, hey, how much? And they said, don't bother. So, and I would also like to invite Ms. Perillo back if she has anything to chime in.
But my point.
Wait. Let Ms. McGivern respond to that.
My point, Mr. Kiley, is simply that the resolution of the planning board should control, and what the parties may have gone off and done in terms of interpreting covenants and restrictions that they were supposed to follow. To the extent they depart from the intent of the planning board, they're not valid. Because
If I may, that is not a filed document in the Suffolk County Clerk's office. I think you know that, Ms. McGivern. A resolution of the planning board?
I
Should
think-
control over filed deeds?
But the planning board controlled the white minor subdivision and how it was supposed to be recorded.
Excuse me, Ms. McGivern, are you saying you have authority that says that the resolution overrides the deeds?
No, I'm saying that the white minor subdivision, as that map was filed, should control.
You say over the deeds which were recorded and put everybody on notice? Are you
Well,
saying that the resolution, I just want to see, if do you have any authority on that?
She's saying there's a discrepancy.
I'm saying there's a discrepancy, and I'm saying the white subdivision map contradicts what they put in the CNRs.
I would like to see a copy of that resolution, because I think the meaning of it's being tortured right now by Ms. McGivern. Because I don't think that's what it says. Do we have it to put up on the screen?
I sent you a copy in my letter.
Can you put it up on the screen?
I don't, maybe Jackie can.
What I'm concerned about is that we have deeds that are recorded with covenants or statements in there that are recorded documents, putting people on notice and expectations. And we're saying that a resolution, which even a title company, I don't even know if they would research it, would supersede these covenants that are recorded in the county clerk's office. We're having a problem with that.
I mean, it seems to me, and I'm certainly not a lawyer, is that if in fact the resolution said X and the CNR said Y, the CNR is the authority, not what the resolution said.
That's what I'm asking. Do you have authority that says the resolution would oversee?
We can try to supply some, yes.
Okay.
Well, I can put up the resolution, but does it matter that it happened after the fact? That they just ignored what the planning board had said and then it wasn't caught? But here, I can share my screen.
Can you put the resolution up, sir?
Sure, if I'm allowed access, I can.
Is that correct?
I have it as well. I just found it.
Okay, then you go for it.
Okay, question, please. So you're saying the resolution, we had covenants and restrictions on the property. And instead of the covenants and restrictions being amended, a resolution was passed that affects these covenants and restrictions. And we're now saying the resolution overrides the covenants and restrictions without amending them properly?
Charles, could you take down the current? I have the resolution if the board would like to see it.
I'm just trying to understand.
This is the approval resolution from the planning board. Joan, do you know which one, condition?
Well, specifically, you want to focus on condition 5 and 6?
So 5 reads submission of 6 copies of the revised minor subdivision of William B. White et al. Prior to signature and recording with the town clerk, reconfiguration of the property and lots in question as shown, location of common driveway for the westerly 2 lots constructed, indicating right of way with ownership and condition of improvements of Little Noack Path. 6, submission of revised declaration of revised minor subdivision map number 366 and minor subdivision 499. I'll just skip with amendments needed, common driveway for the westerly 2 lots constructed to a point at least 500 feet west of the frontage of Little Noack Path, and any conveyance or transfer of the area labeled as 20-foot wide potential future access to landlocked parcel from westernmost parcel of the subject property to the landlocked property to the south labeled now or formerly Amaron Land Corp. Shall be subject to further review and approval from the planning board, and the common driveway required to the westerly lots of the subject property shall be utilized by the landlocked parcel.
Okay, that's an adopted resolution.
Yeah, but
And
that's,
what you're saying, Joan, is that never got into the deed?
I'm saying it's in the white subdivision materials, but it's not in the individual deeds.
Respectfully, if I may add just something to that point, what you've just read, 5 and 6, not inconsistent with what Mr. Kiley and I have been saying to the board. If we choose to exercise our option to transfer that access way, then the town will have the obligation to review that transfer. That's all that says. It doesn't say anything else.
Well,
I agree with her.
well, the problem with that is it says it shall be utilized by the landlocked property.
No.
And it also says it shall be subject to further review. I think there's a basic conflict where
There's no conflict.
we believe there's a conflict, and we believe the language is clear. And we believe that the planning board anticipated this. The planning board wouldn't have left it to the landowners to, at their option, to allow landlocked property access.
Who submitted this resolution? Can I just ask who would be responsible for the submission of the revised declaration of covenants under this resolution?
The applicant, Robin, so the person who was, whoever was amending that map, the applicant would have been, which would have been reviewed and approved by the town attorney's office.
Yeah, who was the applicant?
William
of
White.
that resolution?
William White.
William White.
And he never did it. So where does that leave us? He never did it.
Was this property turned over several times? Didn't someone say
Oh,
that?
yeah.
Yeah, so each time it was sold, that discrepancy, if that is a discrepancy, was just passed along. So I don't know, Kathleen, what would you, I mean, I defer to council here on any guidance that we can provide. I mean, it's a difficult, if Ms. McGivern wants to try and provide the board with some kind of authority to support her statement that this resolution somehow controls over recorded documents, I'd like to see that. That's a real title issue and it shouldn't be taken lightly. There are people who buy these properties in reliance on documents recorded in the Suffolk County Clerk's office, not on resolutions right.
from the planning board.
And Kathleen, the other question I have is if an applicant making the application, if he does not follow through and file the revised covenants, you're now punishing future owners of who rely on recorded documents.
Yeah, I mean, typically, certainly how it works in my experience, which has been after this, is that COs aren't issued, maps aren't signed until those covenants and restrictions are filed. I don't know that happened here, but it was quite a, it was 20 years ago.
30.
So, but
But may I speak for
40.
another moment, if I may, Mike Schuster? So, but the net result is we do see a resolution. Common sense. We look at that lot. We look at the lot that was parceled out. It was landlocked. The town planning board addressed the issue. It specifically contemplated that there would be access to that lot, that access would be from the white right of way. That's what was contemplated in the resolution. That I don't think is in doubt. There may have been a failure accurately to record deeds or to implement what the town intended via its resolution. But now the net result of this, I mean, there were past purchasers. I don't know that they're in front of you, but but even to the extent they are, the net result of this is you are now going to do precisely what was not contemplated when that lot was parceled out, which is to knock down a whole bunch more trees, to have 3 driveways parallel to each other, to go across Greg Raffo's driveway, and to build a driveway in such close proximity to my home and on a slope. I don't even know how they're going to do it, let alone how they're going to make it stable. I do know there's a driveway. I can see it from my house. I can see it from where I'm sitting now if I look out the window. There are cars that go up that driveway and there are lights on. The lights are on that driveway right now. That was never contemplated by the town. And at the end of the day, you'd be sanctioning a mistake, the net result of which will be, again, to knock down trees, to do injury to the aesthetics of this area, and to end up with multiple adjacent parallel driveways and a driveway that goes across a property owner's property when that was never contemplated. That cannot be the right result here.
Mr. Schuster, I have a question for Mr. Schuster. If the applicant tomorrow filed a building permit to build one house, as Mr. Kiley pointed out, one morning the bulldozers would pull up and half an hour later, the trees would be gone. Is that correct?
Well, if you're saying that they would have been able to do that before anybody stopped them, that...
Well, who would stop them? They have a valid building permit. They have clear title down to Noack Path.
I don't know that
the trees would come down. A house would go up. A C of O would be issued.
Well, look, I assume they would have to go and get a building permit. We would have notice. We would have an opportunity.
No, incorrect. You would not get notice. The only notice you would get is when you see those yellow machines parked in front on your road.
Then I'd have to consider at that point what my recourse would be, and I wouldn't be alone in that. I would have neighbors. So I sitting here today, I can't give you an answer to that question. I don't know, but that's not what they're proposing to do.
No.
So, but we're, like I said when I started, we've migrated from a single lot, not subdivided, with a clear contemplation by this town planning board, your predecessors, but still this body, clear contemplation that there would be access by the white right of way. And somehow we've migrated to the point that now we're going to have a subdivided lot, 2 lots instead of the one that was contemplated, and an access road that involves all the things that I've already described. So can I sit here and say, if they come in here with bulldozers, what my recourse would have been? I don't know. I'd have to go and research that. I would have, attempted to do what I could do. But these are the circumstances we're dealing with now. And we've put the record, in front of the town planning board. No one can say that from a town planning board perspective, what they are proposing is superior to using the white subdivision that was originally contemplated. That can't be said.
Right.
The worst that can be said is that the, hang on, Mr. Kiley.
I need to address this.
Let me just finish. The worst
Mr. Kiley, please.
The best
Let's have some decorum in speaking.
The best that can be said is it's a necessary evil, or it's an unavoidable evil. But in no way, shape, or form would that outcome be the most desirable outcome here for this planning board or for anybody who's already living in this area.
Okay.
I believe
Mr.
Mr.
Kiley,
Schuster.
go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, and I apologize for my Irish getting up. But Mr. Schuster's an attorney, and I believe that the language that Ms. McGivern, that I'm just looking at now, is very poorly drafted and inconsistent. And if I have an opportunity to read it and go through it, I'll show that inconsistency. And they're again torturing it for their position because the CNRs fly in the face of it. So, but at the end of the day, my client does not care. My client wants access. If that was a viable option, it would be cheaper and easier, and we'll go for it. But it's not. It's clearly not an option. And the neighbors are all, they want to keep that green belt. They want to keep the trees. But then we asked for support on the common driveway option off Deergate, and nobody wants to give an easement. So I want to ask Mr. Schuster, this is America. So how does if the white is not an option and your neighbors aren't willing to give us an easement, how do you suggest we have access to our property?
Well, look, I can only speak to I would give you access to the common road. You know that. And we've talked, and despite the fact that we're speaking adversarially now, we've in fact had very, cordial conversations in
Correct.
talking through the issues. And I understand that what the Brodas are proposing, what his clients are proposing is not the best solution for them. All I can do is go in front of the town board. To me, I do think all I know is there are two existing access points to the property. The common road, the Deergate 2, is more complicated because there's half a dozen property owners who are parties to a common agreement, and that's getting a lot of people on board. And certainly, when you talk about an easement, I have nothing to say about whether Mr. Routh or Mr. Pappas grants you an easement. But the White subdivision, it's clearly was the original contemplation. Even if we didn't have all the paperwork, you could look at the lot, you could look at the access, you could look at the White subdivision access point, and common sense would lead this board to precisely where that predecessor board ended up, which is that's the logical access route. That, to me, needs to be the outcome here, Mr. Kiley. I'm not unsympathetic to the fact that one way or another, you want your clients to get access to the landlocked property that they own. But the outcome that is being proposed here, and like I say, you may be proposing this as what you view to be a necessary evil or so forth, but that outcome is just it's patently undesirable, and by far the least desirable, and not the one that was originally contemplated. You can't tell me it's better to bulldoze trees than to use existing roads.
Mr.
Can I have the floor for 1 second?
You've made your point.
Can
Yes,
I just
John,
indicate-
please.
Yes.
Yes.
I think that if the conditions were reversed and he didn't have a right to use the fair court, but had to use the White, don't you think the parties that have to give that land up for the egress to his back would go to court? And don't you think the judge would say what the lawyers on this side have been saying, that what a resolution passed does not supersede what the legal document of the deed says? So all your suggestions, Mr. Schuster, and they may be good, are not valid. This, we look at what is legally valid, and you only conclude, if you use simple logic, that he has a right to use the flag court. Anything else doesn't go in court. I've been listening to 4 or 5 lawyers. I get lost how many are here. It becomes exponential in time.
I would respectfully respond to that and say that actually, if you went in front of a judge and you and displayed to the judge what the original resolution was, and somehow the original resolution of the town planning board and why that was, and somehow for reasons that are not reflected on the record, actions have been taken and private documents were created and recorded that are inconsistent with the expressed will of the town planning board, I don't know where a court would end up in that. I can't
Here's
say.
the point, that it's not inconsistent. In other words, the deed was filed and the resolution wasn't added to it. That's not inconsistency. Inconsistency if they probably put half the resolution in. The point that wasn't substantially followed through. But that doesn't give you the right later to come to court and use it, because that becomes a tactic. You then want something done or not done. You're not sure. So you pass the resolution, let it hang. 5 or 10 years later, you want to use it. That's what it would lead to. So again,
look,
logic demands
the
that you
situation
don't
here,
use.
Mr. Zuccarelli, the situation here is anomalous, to put it mildly. If and someone made someone made point to the reference, I think Mr. Kiley or someone did, to the prior proceeding, which we were here and watched. In the prior proceeding, in the Regal proceeding, they're using an existing road. Everything about this is anomalous. This is not a standard situation. It's just not clear, right? But what I'm reasoning
that's
backwards.
where we disagree, sir.
Well, okay.
It is clear. It is clear. Our attorney said it was clear. Mr. Kyle, and what was the young lady? What was her name?
Perillo.
Lisa Perillo.
Lisa Perillo.
Yes.
She agreed. So what I'm saying.
Well,
to
she
you-
represents a party.
Of
No,
course.
a
And their
party.
position seems to be more substantial, much more substantial than your position. Yours are what if we could, this should have been done. And you may be right on all of that. And I would love to say, being right the way you feel we should give it to you, we can't.
Mr. Schuster, can I
Okay.
make a can I just, one last thing? Mr. Schuster, will you be willing to give us an easement over your property to access ours? Because we can, if we use the common driveway as you suggested, and you give us an easement through your property, we can have access.
I have no idea. That's the first time you proposed that to me, as you know.
Make a written proposal.
You know, you've never made a proposal to me on that.
No, that's, it just came to me. And I'm
Okay,
thinking,
All right,
because
you'd have to
look.
propose something and I'd have to look at it.
Mr. Schuster, I hear you. I do. And, you know, we're looking at a very problematic plan, but this board has to work within the confines of law, and we don't have the authority to supersede deed. We have very few options here. We may only have one.
I don't know how hard you've looked at the legalities. You know, I heard Ms. Murray invite Joan to make a further submission. And we will certainly, you know, attempt to do that. I don't know whether you ran to ground the legalities. I appreciate what you just said, Board Member Catalanato. I do appreciate that, and I understand. You know, reality is what reality is. But this has somehow gone awry, because we all know that, or I know, I have firm conviction that the outcome, if the outcome is the one that Mr. Kiley's client is now advocating, it is not in the best interest of this area. It is not, and it is not consistent with what was originally contemplated and what you would do if you had any kind of latitude. You're saying you don't. I don't know that you've exhausted your analysis in concluding that you don't. And I would ask you to do that. And to the extent we can be helpful in that, I would like to be helpful in that.
But I think you've also heard that this board has the ability to design these lots. We're not locked into a cluster. We can go with a standard map, and we can cite home sites that would maybe alleviate some of the burden of the adjoining properties. So to the extent that we have that ability, perhaps parties can enter into more productive negotiations.
Any relief we can get, throw ourselves at the mercy of the board, but
we really need to conclude this. We have other public hearings on the schedule tonight. I mean, I personally would like to say that if there was more common sense in the world, we would not be in this particular situation. I mean, clearly, if with 2 access points to be able to get into a landlocked parcel, the two of you, Mr. Kiley and Mr. Schuster, should get down and sit at a negotiating table and try and make it work out.
I don't have an existing access point. That's others. I wish I did.
No, but you can, if you give me an easement.
Well, now you're asking me that. You and I need to. You and I need to
something
talk.
that you can discuss in your privately.
Jackie, can I just say one thing? We've spent an hour and a half talking legal stuff, and the planning board are not lawyers. And what I'm coming away with is there are a lot of neighbors that if they sat down and worked together, you wouldn't have even been before us. It would have been figured out. And each of us wants to do what is best for us and not necessarily what's best for the community. I totally agree that bulldozing more trees is not the right thing to do. But my solution is that you've got a whole bunch of neighbors work together and figure out a way to use either white or the Deergate to make it work.
Right,
We're
and for the
certainly
record,
happy to have
I
further
second
discussions.
So everybody, we've had an hour and a half, so I'm going to call this to an end. And I'm going to ask that we have a close with a 30-day written comment period. And so whatever else you want to submit, but I do hope that you get together and try to work something out. So can I have a motion to close this with a 30-day written comment period?
Motion.
By Zuccarelli, a second by Gloria, and all in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
Abstentions,
Thank you for your
7 in
time and
favor.
consideration.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman and the
Thank you.
board.
Thank you.
Night, everyone.
Okay, so we're moving on to Sarabi Family Trust. Do we have notice for that, Kathleen?
We do, Madam Chair.
Great. And who is reading that notice?
That's mine, Jackie.
Okay,
Who's coming in?
Please,
Daphne Vaughn.
please take notice that in accordance with Chapter 417 of the laws of 2021, a public hearing will be held by the Southampton Town Planning Board on Thursday, January 13, 2022 at 6 p.m. via video conferencing to consider the final application entitled Sarabi Family Trust. The application consists of a planned residential development cluster and density incentive plan with 3 lots on an 11.876 acre, 5,017 square feet parcel located in the CR 200 zoning district, situated within the Aquifer Protection Overlay District and on the CPF priority list, located at 349 Great Hill Road in the hamlet of North Sea. Southampton tax map number is 900-78.1-1-34.
thank you. Daphne, please state your name for the record.
Daphne Vaughn, Surfside Environmental Planning for the owner, Sarabi Family Trust. So this is a hearing for the final application of a proposed 3-lot subdivision. The property is comprised of 11.28 acres located in the CR 200 zoning district and Aquifer Protection Overlay District. So it's a 3-lot residential density incentive subdivision with a 7.72 acre open space parcel that is comprised of 65% of the parcel that will be dedicated to the town. The property is currently vacant as all the former structures were demolished and a certificate of compliance was issued for the removal of those structures last January 2021. The subdivision creates 3 flag lot parcels, each with bulk areas under 60,000 square feet. The lots will take access from the 39.81 feet of road frontage on Great Hill Road on the east side of the parcel through a proposed common driveway, access and utility easement. The road frontage is just shy of the required 40 feet by 0.19 feet. And it's at the discretion of the planning board to grant access without the need for a variance from the zoning board. The owner has purchased 1 full development credit within the CR 200 zoning district and Southampton School District in order to propose the 3rd lot in accordance with section 339C, 9C2, of the town code, which allows for a 30% increase in the density with the use of a development right or Pine Barren credit. And on lots where the yield is 3 lots or less, it allows for allowance for 1 additional lot with the transfer of 1 full credit, which is what we're providing.
What's the size of that lot, Daphne?
What's the size of which?
The 3rd lot?
All 3 lots are just under 60,000 in the bulk area.
Okay.
I'm sorry, 58,675 is lot 3. Lot 2 is, they're actually all 58,675.
Okay, thank you.
The proposed open space parcel takes in the entire northern and western sides of the lot, much of which abuts existing town and county owned properties. The open space area is densely wooded, as you can see in this aerial, with pitch pine and oak forest, and existing earth trails that extend throughout the area. There's a slope analysis that we submitted that Jackie had up a couple seconds ago. Excuse me, that shows that the majority of the open space parcel, and we are also showing a proposed 20-foot conservation easement located along the northern and western sides. So the majority of that whole bulk area combined with the open space contains slopes of 15% or more. So when you do the analysis of it, it's actually 53.1% of that combined conservation easement and open space area is 15% slopes or more. So the proposed lots will utilize much of the existing clearing, which I think is shown on that slope analysis.
Very hard to see.
Yeah, there's a lot going on the map. But basically, the old structures were located within the area of the existing lots. So that's one of the other reasons why we're showing the lots, thank you, in that location, because it will utilize that previously cleared areas from that development that we demolished. So the parcels will be subject to 50% clearing per the Aquifer Protection Overlay District requirements. So on the map, we're showing the existing clearing within each lot individually, and then we're noting the allowance for that 50%. Finally, and one of the more important aspects of the project, aside from the open space, is that we'll be installing 2,349 linear feet of water main on Great Hill Road, as well as 2 fire hydrants in accordance with the North Sea Fire District comments and requirements of the Health Department to give public water to these properties. We've obtained a contract from the Suffolk County Water Authority, and I'm waiting for my client to provide me a check for the full amount of the installation of that water main, so I can provide that back to the county for scheduling of that work for this season. Otherwise, we're working on town engineer comments on the common driveway plans and drainage plans that we received at the end of the year about 2 weeks ago. And we've got the SWIP underway, so we're working on all of those things. And I think that's about it.
Okay. Any questions from the board? Is there anyone wishing to speak to this application? Charles?
I see no hands.
Any other questions? If not, propose a 10-day written comment period to close the hearing. Motion by Dennis,
Second.
second by Craig, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 7 in favor. Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Daphne.
you. Hi, George.
Okay, Anthony Toscano.
I think I'm reading that one.
We have notice.
We do, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Carl's
Robin,
gonna
you
do
read
it.
it?
I'll read the notice in. Please take notice.
Sorry,
In
Chris.
accordance with Chapter 417 of the laws of 2021, a public hearing will be held by the Southampton Town Planning Board on Thursday, January 13th, 2022 at 6 p.m. via video conferencing to consider the site plan application entitled Anthony Toscano. The site plan special exception application proposes the construction of an approximate 12,000 square foot building for special trade contractor use on a 73,616 square foot, 1.69 acre parcel located in the LI 40 zoning district, the Aquifer Protection Overlay District, and the New York State Central Pine Barrens Compatible Growth Area situate at 1408 Spionk Riverhead Road in the hamlet of Spionk, Remsenburg, Suffolk County Tax Map number 900-327-1-1.2.
Thanks. Mr. Barletta, are you representing this application?
Yes, I am. My name is
Okay.
Chris Barletta, 3 Walker Court, East Quogue, on behalf of the applicant.
Okay, give us an overview.
Yeah, so just as Ms. Long pointed out, it's a construction of a 12,000 square foot for special trade contractor use on a 1.6 acre lot. It does, in order to meet the clearing requirements to meet the building size that the owner wanted. They're in the process of purchasing 0.4 Pine Barren credits, and in order to do that, the proposed building is kind of in kind with the other ones in that area on Riverhead Spionk Road. It's a pre-engineered building. That the last planning board meeting, the board members maybe suggested doing a little something with the front. I think with the front elevation, adding some stone to the front there, as before. I think, unfortunately, I think these aren't the latest drawings, because it's this was when the building was originally. I could put them up if you want.
Sure, yeah, I was hoping to receive them, but I don't receive that. I don't think I received them.
Yeah, I can pull them up. Let me just grab west elevation, east elevation building. Oh, shoot. From Morgan. The site plan is correct. The building elevations were changed. They changed it to a pitched roof kind of during the review with the engineering department. Here we go. I can share screen. Screen 3. Share.
There you go.
Okay.
So no longer a flat roof, you have a pitched roof?
Yeah, it's no longer a flat roof. It's a pitched roof. It's a pre-engineered metal building, similar in kind to the one directly to the north there, which is the West Hampton Glass Building, or a little further down, which is Excelsior Plumbing and Heating. The board suggested maybe on the west elevation, which is the elevation that faces the road, to add some stone or an overhang on the top. I did a little mock-up of that during that last long hearing. Did that come up?
Yes, it did.
I spoke to the owner and they're open to that if that's something that you guys wanted to suggest or would help move things along.
And those are divided windows?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. There'd probably be mirrored glass or some kind of obstructed glass so it don't see really into the building, because it's kind of warehouse, special trade contractor space. Other than that, I think that's pretty much it.
What's your clearing on the land on this? Because you're an aquifer
The
protector.
clearing is at proposed disturbance is 62.4%. Sorry, I can't see you guys anymore.
Okay, are there any other questions?
Just a couple of comments. I think we brought it up last time. You're at the northern edge of the plume there, so I assume you're going to be connected to city water.
Correct.
Yeah, you may want to consider vapor barriers. And
They-
also that area over there, I know it very, very well. You're actually bathed in sunlight. So on behalf of Glorian, I'm going to suggest that maybe you look into some solar panels as well.
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah. Yeah, there's wells on the property. Kind of one right where the middle of the building is. The DEC is going to relocate that to the property line. It's kind of in the middle of the property. And they're going to move it, just keeping it center and just following where the plume's going because it's running north to south, just following it to the south. And the owner agreed to keep it on the property. But yeah, but we've already talked about that in the vapor barrier and then the city water or some county water, which is already on the street. But yeah.
Any other questions? Charles, is there anyone in the room,
No hands.
room? No hands? Okay, so no further questions. 10-day written close with the 10-day written comment period.
Moved.
And by Robin, second by Craig, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 7 in favor. Thank you.
So much for your time.
Thank you,
Appreciate it.
Marletta. Okay, moving on to number 5, the Cordis Family Trust.
We have proper notice, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And who's reading this?
I believe I am.
Okay, go ahead, Craig.
Please take notice that in accordance with Chapter 417 of the laws of 2021, a public hearing will be held by the Southampton Town Planning Board on Thursday, January 13th, 2022 at 6 p.m. via video conferencing to consider the final application entitled Cordis Family Trust. The final application consists of 2-lot standard plan on 3.8454 acre parcel currently improved with single-family residence and accessory structures located within the CR 40 zoning district, New York State archaeologically sensitive area with partially within the WQI medium priority area situated at 223 Norris Lane in the hamlet of Bridgehampton, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-72-1-3.
Okay. Someone representing this application? Jackie, do you know?
I believe it's Joe
the Rayner
Lombardi.
Group.
Yeah, Joe Lombardi from the Rayner Group.
Yeah.
Is
Got
Joe
it.
there?
Coming in.
And you have a map, Jackie? You can
Yes.
share.
Mhm.
Hi, Joe. State your name, please, for the record.
Joe, I think you're muted.
It's Joe Lombardi from the Rayner Group, 860 Montauk Highway, Watermill, New York.
Welcome, Joe.
Hi, everyone. Okay, so this is a minor subdivision that would create 2 lots. One is improved with a single-family residence. The second would be vacant. The parcel is about 496 feet south of Narrow Lane in Bridgehampton, in the CR 40 zoning district. Subject parcel has about 30 feet of frontage on Norris Lane. And the subdivision required that we receive relief from the Zoning Board of Appeals for lack of road frontage. We obtained that relief on October 18th, 2018. Single common driveway is proposed to serve both lots. Plans for the common driveway were submitted and were reviewed by the town engineer. He had some comments. We have reviewed the plans. We have revised the plans and will be submitting them for further review. Basically, essentially what happened, the driveway that we prepared was 12 feet wide. He wanted it 14 feet wide. So we widened the driveway by 2 feet added some additional drainage, and that was about it. The subject parcel is located in a New York State archaeologically sensitive area, which had a phase 1 archaeological investigation was prepared by Tracker. No prehistoric artifacts or features were encountered, and no further archaeological work was recommended. The subdivision has received approval from the Suffolk County Department of Health Services, and public water has been extended along Norris Lane, I'm sorry. So the existing residence has connected already to public water, and any proposed residents on Lot 1 will have to connect. And I think that's about it.
So can you just give us the width of those driveways again, Joe? Sorry.
Sure. The frontage, the width of the driveways, the common driveway?
Yeah, so the frontage altogether is 30 feet, you said?
The frontage is 30 feet. And each parcel has approximately 15 feet of frontage.
Okay, that's better.
And that was, that relief was granted by the Zoning Board of Appeals.
So there's going to be 2 separate driveways, Joe?
Oh, no. There'll be one common driveway. There's a proposed common driveway easement.
Mm-hmm.
And there'll be a single driveway that goes in about 150 feet into the property and then branches off. The existing stone driveway will remain, and then there'll be a driveway that goes off to the north to serve a proposed, any proposed house on.
Yeah. What confused me is you said each property would have frontage on the road, so it's not going to be commonly owned?
No, each lot has frontage on the road, but there's a common driveway.
They have to have frontage.
Yeah, the frontage is required.
But it's a shared driveway.
Yes, it is.
It's just legal frontage, Gloria.
Yeah, okay.
Joe, what about fire suppression? Is there a hydrant?
There are 2 hydrants. One is about 496 feet
There it is, yeah.
north on Narrow Lane, and there's one south on Norris Lane that was put in when the Water Authority extended the water main along the road.
Okay, so the
and
cemetery is right north of that, right? There's the cemetery.
It's south of the property.
Yeah, okay.
And where you see that bend in the road, there's a hydrant along in that area.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any other questions? Charles, is there anyone in the waiting room?
No hands.
No hands? Entertain a motion to close with a 10-day written comment period by Glorian, second by George. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, 7 in favor. That's it. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you very much. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you. Okay, the last for the evening is the Polsinelli Management property. Do we have sufficient notice, council?
Yes, Madam Chair, it's a pre-submission conference.
I can read. I know it's.
You can read now?
I thank you, Craig, for offering to step in. I can read.
I'm here for you.
Yapping away all night. Please take notice that in accordance with Chapter 417 of the laws of 2021, a public hearing will be held by the Southampton Town Planning Board on Thursday, January 13th, 2022 at 6 p.m. via video conferencing to consider the site plan application entitled Polsinelli Management. The pre-submission application requests a total of 9.3516 acres of land disturbance associated with establishing a flower farm with a total project area of 17.5969 acres located in the R40 zoning district at 149 Old Country Road and 149 Jagged Path in the hamlet of Spion-Remsenburg, tax map number 900-353-1-37.1, 37.2, and 37.3. Done.
Yeah. And who is representing the application?
It should be Danielle Pazinelli.
Coming in.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Danielle Polsinelli. I'm here on behalf of Polsinelli Management and our property at 149 Old Country Road in Spionk, New York, 11972. We have a property that's approximately 18 acres. We're looking to clear about 9.35 acres and turn it into agricultural production. We've already contracted a farmer, Marcus Ribeiro of Easton Flower Farms, to assist with this process, and we need your permission. Oh.
I just wanted to provide you with the aerials.
Jackie, is this your application?
It is, yes.
Can you speak to it a bit?
Sure. So the applicant is before us for the land disturbance, which is required pursuant to the pre-submission standards for any land disturbance over 2,000 square feet. The applicant did proceed with about 4 acres of clearing, which you can see on the aerial here, but they are asking to clear a total of 9.35 acres to provide for land for a farming operation. The property takes access off a Jagger Path here, but does also have additional land frontage on Old Country Road to the north here.
But this is not an ag. This is not an ag district.
This is not within an ag district, nor is it an existing farm operation, although there was a historic, I think, apple orchard, which is in this area here.
So doesn't that require special clearance through SECRA from state?
So this is pursuant to our review. It is classified as an unlisted action. So the planning board does need to review this through SECRA. And with the land disturbance of 9.35 acres, obviously we want to look at erosion control and the need for a possible SWIP plan. Also, the access is through Jagger Path, which is a deeded right of way here. There are 2 existing dwellings on the property. There are currently some violations in court, and the court asked the applicant to come to the planning board for a site plan for the proposed use and clearing disturbance.
So there's no activity on this currently?
And no farming activity currently except for the apple orchard, which has been there for some time. I'm just trying to go zoom in this for you. So you can see here, this is the existing disturbance. Sorry, it's hard to read it because it's
Very hard to read it. There's no structure at all here, right?
There's 2 existing houses, one here and one here.
Residences
There's 2 residences on the property, pre-existing.
that's part of the 10 acres or greater?
Well, it's part of the property. They're not, Danielle,
It's
you
not
may
part of
be
the
able to-
clear. It's not part of the clearing, the proposed clearing.
So the houses are going to stay?
Yes, the houses are actually built prior to 1957, and they're pre-existing certificates of occupancy there.
Okay. Well, I'm sure that we will see this at various stages during the planning process.
Are there long-eared bat species on this property?
So we actually checked with the DEC, who notified us that the only condition of clearing the property is that it has to be done before February 28th, I believe.
But you know that the habitat for the long-eared bat are trees. So if you clear cut the property, are you not removing the habitat?
So they actually only summer there, and I believe we had a lengthy conversation with the conservationist, and it's basically the fact that we're clear cutting only less than 10 acres is a good compromise.
How much buffer will be left between your property and the car storage facility there?
The junkyard?
Yeah, thanks.
So, yeah, sorry.
No, we've
Sorry, I
been doing
didn't
this
mean
all
to
day.
be-
Yes, whatever that thing is called, with a bunch of cars.
Yeah, so the way we planned it is we have at least a 40, well, we have more than 40 feet on that end, but we have at least a 40-foot buffer in every direction.
So I think we'll probably be asking you for correspondence from the DEC stating what you just stated about the long-eared bat. Okay, I think there are.
I have an email if you want to see it now, or I could send it to you later, whichever is easier.
I think this will be going through a process. I think there are people who want to speak to this application.
Can I also ask, my apologies, my father, I believe, is on the call as well. If you could let him into the room also.
What's his name?
Tom Polsinelli.
So you've leased this property to Mr.
Ribeiro.
Ribeiro.
Yes, he
Long
should
term-
also be on the call if if we could let him in too.
He's coming.
So Charles, if there's someone who wants to speak to the application, I think we'd like to hear from them now.
They are coming in.
Thank you. I just want to remind everyone that what you say in the chat is not part of the record, so either come on or, join in with the Zoom, or so you'll have to submit your comments by email or by writing.
They're all in.
Okay, so it's John Capabianca. Are you from the general public who wishes to speak?
He's muted.
Can you unmute him, Charles?
Trying to.
I hope that I've unmuted.
There you are. Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can't see you. Can you put your video on?
And my oldest brother, he used to do the IMs, the individual mentally set, like, unfortunately, when the IM.
Okay.
There you go.
Hello. My name is John Capabianca. I live at 27 Hickory Bend in Spionk. My property is adjacent to the Polsinelli property. And I was wondering if the proposal includes any survey of the exact area that's going to be cleared.
Yes, and they have it.
Are they showing exactly where it's cleared, however?
Yes.
Where is your property, Mr. Capabianca?
I'm at 27 Hickory Bend at the end of the road on the cul-de-sac on the flag lot, which is adjacent to the railroad right away.
Is this correct?
Right there?
Right there. That's
Right
me.
there. Yep. Okay.
So the first, the one issue that I'm concerned about is the setbacks. I believe commercial setbacks are supposed to be 50 feet from the property line. I'm not sure about agricultural. So I'm concerned about the setbacks along the property line there to the east of the Polsinelli property. I'm also concerned about the access road, which goes over the railroad there. Is that the drawing seems to go right through the parking lot of the Peconic Salvage Yard. Is that correct?
That's what's showing on the map.
Okay. And the buffer along that east side?
And that's all to be determined as as it moves through the process here.
So just to give you some background as well, Mr. Capabianco, the person who assisted us with the surveyor who assisted us with the survey and the clearing, the parcel that we're clearing is actually also, they own a house adjacent to the property. So all of I understand the concern with the proper buffer, but please know that we've taken into consideration the proper amount. And I believe it is 40 feet for agricultural.
Can I, I don't
know if I can. A number of trees have blue dots on them around the property. And I'm concerned that whether that is some sort of border that was created to identify trees that have to come down, or that's just where they're going to clear up to. And in some instances, it seems to be closer than that on the property, especially, like I said, on the east side of the property. Does that have any relevance to anything?
can I speak? Can I be heard?
Just identify yourself, please.
Yeah, my name is Tom Polsinelli. Can you bring that map up again, please, the survey map? And maybe I can clear a few of the issues up that Mr. Capabianco was bringing up. The total area of the property is about 18 acres, 17 and a half acres. If you see the clearing, it's 9.3 acres, which is quite a distance north of the junkyard and south of Old Country Road. It's also coming, maybe the other map that you had was a little,
the other map is better. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess hard to, the other map, yeah, I think that map. So if you see the disturbance, it comes to a certain point. Mr. Capabianco, your house is at the far bottom, southern part. We're not disturbing anything to the west of you. That area is left intact. We're not disturbing, and the access is through a right-of-way that's been established for maybe 60, 70 years that we've owned this property along that junkyard that gets into the property itself. So the disturbance is really to the north of you and quite a distance away from your home. And again, it's only 9.3 acres, which is south of a 40-acre farm. If you can see the farm to the north of it, that's been in agricultural production. It's a pumpkin farm, been in for, again, 60, 70 years. And we're looking just to extend kind of that farming district a little bit for about 9.5 acres into the center body of the flag. We're not disturbing the flag pole, which goes about 1,800 feet up to Old Country Road. So we just want that small area that we're looking to do some agricultural work on.
So the trees that have been identified with the big blue dot, they have no relevance to anything?
No, they do. The farmer has identified certain trees that he's going to take down, certain trees that he's going to harvest that have that are maybe oaks that he's going to use, be able to reuse those trees, and other trees that have no value that'll be knocked down. So he just did that prior to clearing the area.
All right, but
when you say the farmer, who is the farmer?
If I could,
sorry, Marcos there. Sorry.
I am Marcos Ribeiro. I'm the leasee, working together with the Poncinellis. Can you guys see me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, we can see. Yep.
So very specific blue dots, timber that is worthy of being cut down and harvested. If you see some other X's, that's trees that are not really worthy of cutting for lumber. So that's the blue dots that you see on the trees.
Okay, but none of this moves forward without planning board approval and looking at this site.
Yes, yes.
Not a timbering operation, right?
That's important to us. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can I ask a question, please?
George, yeah.
So, Mr. Poncinelli, that area to the north of the single-family homes, it's already been cleared, where the trees have been felled. Does that represent the full 9.4, 9.5 acres that you clear, or is there additional?
It does not. It's roughly around 4 acres.
That's been cleared already.
Yes.
I see.
And you have a violation on that, correct?
So
And that's in court.
basically what had happened was we had reached out to the town of Southampton and we're in discussion with them for over a year and a half with no response. Basically, we were just getting that they'll get back to us and they'll get back to us. And then basically Marcos informed us he does have 3 existing farms, that he does, as a farmer, he does have legally a right to farm. He started clearing the trees in order to get them prepared for in order not to miss the season. We were hit with violations and a stop work order. Everything stopped on the property. I worked another year to make sure we resolved those violations. And now we're here asking for you for permission.
Right. Well, there is no right to farm established here because it's not agricultural land. So we have to go back to the beginning. So I think that should just be on the record.
Sure. And we do want to do everything with your permission. So.
And as a follow-up question, the area sort of west of the junkyard, where you said you're not clearing that area, are you selectively harvesting timber within that area then? Is that what I'm understanding from the blue dots?
No.
Yes?
No,
Oh, okay.
that
I'm
area
sorry.
will remain undisturbed as proposed on the site plan.
So Jackie, are you handling this application?
Yes, I am.
Okay. So
Will
this
this
is,
be a year-round farming operation or just seasonal?
We grow sunflowers for market, so typically I start plowing in very early April, start sowing about the middle of April, and we'll run until the very end of October, and then that's it.
Will you be requiring any greenhouses or any additional lighting that may affect
Moment,
the
no.
neighbors?
For any structures whatsoever.
Okay, thanks.
is there anyone else from the public that is there, Charles?
No hands.
And, any further questions from the planning board? So this is a pre-submission conference, so it's a 30-day requirement, written comment period, so.
Well, knowing that, can we just back up real quick?
Yeah.
Ms. Pulsinelli, you had mentioned that as long as you don't clear up to February.
So
that'll.
My apologies. The North American long-eared bat, if we clear after, we're not able to clear after February 28th.
After February 28th.
Mm-hmm.
So you're working very tight window right now for clearing.
Well, we actually, to be honest with you, the land that had already been cleared with that incited the violations, we would, if we have your permission, we would use that land for this season. And then once we have your permission, I understand it's good for a year. Next season, we would look into clearing the remaining 9 or 5 acres to make the 9.35.
I see.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, any other comments? Entertain a motion to close with a 30-day comment period. It's a pre-submission application
Motion.
by Craig, second by Zuccarelli, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 7 in favor. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, planning board, we did it. Yes, motion to adjourn.
Second.
By Dennis, second by Zuccarelli, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed,
Stay safe,
abstentions,
everyone.
Take care.